For a little while anyway. I'm from BAM FM, and thanks to the chairperson for my introduction today. Whilst I have some academic background for the last 15, really 17 years, my background's been one of a practitioner. And I think on one hand, academic, and certainly not as anyone who really knows much about IT, which I'll come back to. But actually, having sat just now unrehearsed, I'm very pleased to see some commonality maybe in what Deborah's been presenting just now. So I can breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief. Phew. So what I'd like to do in 15 minutes, and it might take a little longer, a little shorter, we'll see, is a brief introduction to myself, BAM FM, just to give you some context. And also, a very, very brief introduction maybe about BIM. I'm kind of guessing everybody knows a bit about BIM. And then I'm going to bust some myths, I hope, and maybe try and keep it interesting like that. My children watch something called Mythbuster. It's got guns and fast cars in it, and I can't promise it will be that exciting, but hopefully you'll be on the edges of your seats. And finally, I'd like to present a project which BAM FM is undertaking with our partners FSI, Autodesk as well, where we are implementing BIM retrospectively into a project where we're already operating. It's a project that is ongoing, but I'd like to report some of the outcomes that we're hoping to achieve and our current progress. Can you still hear me? I think my arm was slipping. So, introduction. BAM FM is part of the BAM Construct UK group, and it's operated for 15 years. We've got about 750 staff, and I think one of the key advantages we see in BIM as a self-delivery company is we're able to use BIM not only in the management but in the delivery of FM services in our facilities. This of course is a new outcome. We until now have been operating in a traditional way using hard landings, although being part of the same group, I think we probably have it easier than many. From many of our projects have come from BAM Construction. But I think we can still be victims of the same kind of pitfalls that people come across. As described, my name is Reid Cunningham. I won't go into the Strategic Development Director bit, but I am the project leader for this particular BIM project that BAM FM with our partners has embarked upon. Having made a small introduction to myself, I wondered if, maybe with a show of hands, anyone who is an FM practitioner could maybe put their hand up if there's anyone who is in FM. Right, not 3, 4. Thank you. Also, then, how many people would describe themselves as in the design industry? Okay, that's a few more. I'd say that's maybe sort of 50% or 40%. And then in the contracting industry, that's probably the balance, isn't it? Actually, there was one other, was occupiers and owners. Is there any? Right. I think that's 2. Yeah, I know they're twice. So that's interesting. Thank you. It probably won't change the content of what I'm going to tell you, but I'll try and keep that relevant and not insult anyone when we get to the Mythbusters. So, just very quickly, and I'm guessing we all have a handle on what BIM is, but the advantages for the FM industry that we see in BIM, and these are slides that you might have seen Kathleen Tanner, one of my colleagues, present before, is to do with information and data, which is really very valuable in a pound note sense, where this graph illustrates, all the power and the intelligence being with the client at the early stages. But as soon as a building contractor is appointed, the balance of information and power changes, and it's actually the building contractor, the subcontractors who are installing kit, that they have all the knowledge, and actually the clients intelligence for what's going in starts to fall away a bit. At handover, similarly, an FM contractor might arrive, and because they are into the building every day and they're into the assets, they learn a lot about those assets. The client maybe doesn't get that full understanding. And now and again, these are retendering during the lifetime of the project. They can also be projects like life cycle type projects. And because this data is in the hands of a third party, when we come to do market testing, they're not really encouraged to share everything they know, and the data's lost and has to be regained, and it's lost and regained. And we go through the cycle again and again, updating asset lists, and it's painful and it's expensive. And we keep resurveying buildings in the FM industry, and some people make a lot of money out of it, and maybe that's one of the reasons why it's allowed to persist. BIM gives us the opportunity to be sharing data in a collaborative and participative way during construction and during handover, delivering the soft landings and the improved understanding and knowledge, which is so valuable and is missing from some of these traditional processes. That's the idea. So Mythbusters, it gets exciting now. My first myth is BIM is for new facilities. What we'll find, I think, in this first period, while industry, in terms of construction industry and FM industry, are getting comfortable with BIM, I think we'll find that it is new projects, and it's where there's been a commitment in a new project to creating a BIM model, where FM then benefits from that into the long term in the future. As the industry starts to see what we think the benefits will be from BIM, then I think we can be reasonably confident that people will see the benefit in investing in bringing existing buildings into a BIM environment, or buildings that are being refurbished and there's a project ongoing into a BIM environment. There are various very powerful methods, including point cloud surveys, which are millimetre accurate and create the most amazing renditions of buildings. By grouping some of those images, you can create assets, and from those assets effectively backfill a BIM model. It's maybe not as simple and straightforward an exercise as the one we have with new projects, but it is possible, and with the rate and development of technology, I think that will become more and more likely. Of course, the other option is if a building is reasonably new and already has 2D CAD drawings, and those can be regenerated or improved into a 3D type environment, and from there that springboard can be used to get into the BIM environment. Myth number 2 is Kobe. Now, for those in the FM industry, and I know that's a minority of us here, but we were led to believe first, when we first heard about BIM, it will be okay. You'll get Kobe, and we thought, wow, that's marvelous. all our it's so simple, and all our solutions, all our problems, will be over. What's Kobe? I've got some animation here. You see, here we go. There's some Kobe happening on the screen. Kobe has some benefits. I think it is well developed in the USA, and they're on version 2.48, and I think they go up in 0.1, so that's maybe revision 248 or something, I don't know. But it sounds like it's well developed and they're using it. And just in case, just to make sure everyone understands, Kobe is the sort of data drop from BIM that's meant to, help FM. It is system agnostic, which is good. So whatever systems are being used by a design team and a contractor, a Kobe result can be generated. That's very valuable, and that's genuinely useful. As I say, it's tried and tested, and it's a good touchstone. If we can have it, then it's always good to have it. However, it lacks some sophistication. but actually even probably a higher priority than that, it's a one-off event. Now you can have data drops during construction, and they might be more and more useful as you get nearer practical completion. Eventually you get one at practical completion, and that is the sort of the biggest Kobe drop, most useful Kobe drop. But it happens once. So you have that Kobe drop, and for every hour after that, it's out of date. The second issue is it's not easily then transferred into a really very usable format. Certainly, as Deborah mentioned, we're starting to consider taking asset data into CAFM database systems. Now, Kobe coming out in a workbook environment has lost some of its intelligence and links, and it's not easily reversed back into a CAFM or a database asset management system. And I think, whilst we genuinely look forward to PAS 1192 Part 2 and Part 3 being released, I think they will make a big difference. But as it stands right now, there's still too many different terminologies and too many asset types and what have you going around, and they are not easily mapped and regulated, and they're just not uniform. So from one project to another, you're starting all over again, and it makes life tricky. If we can, across our industry, and I'm meaning design, construction and FM industries there actually, if we can harmonise that, we will suddenly find we're making leaps of progress. Another question about Kobe is, are we collecting the right stuff? The good news is that Kobe as a principle is a very good principle, and it's one which we are keen to support if we can sort out these PAS issues and what have you. Ideally, what we'd like to do is think of, and I'm going to use Kobe as a term today, but I'm not really talking about an Excel workbook term. I'm talking about a database, probably an XML type file database transfer, where we maintain the links and the relationships between assets. Myth 3, design. I don't really want to upset anyone too much. Design team inputs into BIM are sufficient, and the benefits of harmonising the software used by design teams are those benefits last. It's a kind of subtle point maybe, but again, when FM industry heard about BIM, we thought that's wonderful. There'll be a 3D drawing created in a flash, and we'll get everything we want really early on. But actually, the D&B design and build process continues as it always has, and information is very slowly gathered over a whole construction period, leading to practical completion when the last doorknob's been screwed on and everything like that. So we kind of jumped forward, maybe over-optimistically thinking we would have all the answers much sooner. But we don't. We have all the answers when we were all ready. But when we were all going to get the answers we were going to get anyway. The construction and the design process itself hasn't changed. The interesting thing about design teams, and I know design teams are keen to be involved, and we're keen to be involved too, but actually the real value for FM will come from the subcontractors, and it will be the actual installation, not the intended boiler, it will be the actual boiler that we need to know about. It will be the serial number of that actual boiler, and eventually it will be the actual commissioning data for the actual boiler. The design flow rates, the specification, those things will fall away naturally through the design process, as they always do. But what we need in the BIM, we need to replace the design intent with the real data. And the benefits for that will become clearer and clearer as I go on. The idea of a design team all getting behind a single design product, like an Autodesk product or an Archibus or whatever, is maybe still worthwhile from the point of view of the design team and coordinating the design team. However, similarly, subcontractors own packages, whatever they're using, will or can create its own issues with creating the Kobe data, as I'm talking about it in a database format, with there being, rather than one or two software products, a variety of software products. So don't get me wrong, BAM-FM and other FM companies want to be involved more and more in the design process as we can and generate soft landings. But we mustn't fool ourselves that just because we're all using Revit, everything's going to be okay, because the subcontractor's going to come along and use whatever they want. Myth 4, there's not many to go. O&M manuals are here to stay, and the BIM model will be replaced. I call this the BIM cliff. And I'm really disappointed that it's not caught on. So if you could all start calling it the BIM cliff, I'll be relieved. The BIM cliff, in my mind, it's very much what we've spoken about, a design process that gathers more and more data, really, really rich, valuable data, and it's collected by a bigger and bigger group of people, which means for any one group of people it's not too big a commitment, I hope. But at practical completion, whether or not we have a Kobe drop then, it all stops. The whole thing stops dead. And all that information sits out there in the cloud, and either it gets overwritten by whoever overwrites these things in the cloud somewhere, or if it's not kept up to date, it'll very soon be worthless anyway. But I genuinely believe that if we do keep it up to date, then it becomes a fantastic resource ultimately to replace O&M manuals. And I'll come back to in our Project Robin, we are using the BIM model to start that process of replacing O&M manuals, and the efficiency will be the benefit of not having to disappear down into the basement and hunt around 15 lever arch files for commissioning data for when you're handling it. It will be on the glass in front of you as you stand at that unit. So we'll come back to it in a minute. I've just given that kind of punchline away, really. The beauty, or what we'd like to maintain, rather than that BIM cliff, is to keep the BIM model live into the operation of the building. And that will require a huge upskilling in the FM industry, because unlike the construction the construction industry and the design industry, we don't have lots of CAD operators who are familiar in 3D modelling and all this stuff. But the value in having a 3D simulation, not just an image, but information-rich 3D models for the lifetime of a building is just phenomenal. And we're only really starting to dream about the value that will give us in 10, 15 and 20 years. It's phenomenal, and it will save all those peaks and troughs. So if the FM industry can take that BIM model, can transfer data into a CAFM system, but then maintain the BIM model in the cloud or whatever it is as an O&M, a live O&M document, then that's a very, very powerful thing. There's other advantages too, which are very much in parallel with what the construction industry, the benefits the construction industry already has with BIM. For example, being able to do various kind of building simulations, energy simulations, movement around the building of people, those sorts of simulations, and change management by knowing the assets and the layout of rooms when you redesign, and you have the coordination that the 3D environment already gives you. The same benefits that exist in the construction industry will translate immediately into the FM industry. Last one. You're not quite on the edge of your seats, so I'm finding bullets around. But BIM is an IT project. As Deborah very rightly said, 90% of BIM is about collaboration, participation, and communication. And the earlier FM can be involved in a construction process, the better, to get the richest data out and generate the softest landing. IT, of course, is a very valuable enabler to that, and we'd be fooling ourselves if we thought otherwise. Just with time then, I'll quickly run on to our Project Robin. BAM or in BAM FM is lucky enough to benefit from a lot of work that BAM Construct UK is already invested in, and a very active user of BIM technology in the UK. So riding along the crest of that wave, we started to consider what we could do in FM with the information that BAM Construction was generating. We were already using FSI, Facility Software International, as used to be. Yeah. Products for our own help desk system, which we've been operating for about 15 years. And it was very, very natural for us to first approach FSI to see what we could do about transferring BIM data into the asset management part of our CAFM help desk system. Autodesk have a very strong relationship with BAM Construct, and we're a very obvious second partner to be pushing. We're doing the pull, if you like, they're doing the push of the data. Again, we're lucky enough to enjoy the benefits of having an internal design company called BAM Design and BAM Services Engineering, who have all contributed to a project. Our project started off with a phase 1, which was just to see how easy it was to push and pull BIM data, not through COBE, although we kind of call it COBE, but to use a live database system. The database source was an SQL database. The FSI system is an SQL-based database, and using an XML file, we were able to prove to ourselves that using some kind of washed, clean data, we were able to map, albeit everything was worded differently between the CAFM system and the Revit system, but we were able to map things over into fields, and it all made sense and worked. So that was earlier this year, February, and we were rather pleased with ourselves. And we moved on into phase 2. Phase 2 is to take a live building operating in Camden. It's UCL Academy, which was delivered as part of the government's BSF programme. It's been operating since 2012, and it's a reasonably advanced, being a BSF project, reasonably advanced academy. We already had BIM data for it, although because that project had started 2 years ago, the BIM data wasn't where we would be starting now. So we've been refreshing that BIM data and are right now in the process of doing some test transfers into the CAFM system with the aim of completing that in August, of a full transfer of BIM data into the CAFM system in August, and then from that point we'll be synchronizing a BIM model live for the next 24 and a half years with the CAFM system. So the two will be operating as a synchronized system, I hope. I'm not sure if you're able to read this at the back, but just very quickly, there was a few key points in here. We've got the 3D model. We spent some time data specking items, assets, major assets that we were interested in collecting data for. There's a lot of stuff the FM industry isn't really that interested in. We don't need an awful lot of information on blinds. We don't need an awful lot of what would you call it, kind of locational data, coordinates of things. We can kind of see where the window is. So we don't need to be told that it's a grid reference or anything like that. We don't need to map it on Google Earth. We just tell us a little bit about it. So rather than bring over a lot of stuff, we started to prioritise what we're most interested in for different types of asset air handling units, pumps, this kind of thing. We've then what we call a COBE drop. This is an ongoing process, and we're having our own little mini COBE drops just now until our BIM model, which is completely washed and kind of retrospectively made up for us, is ready. But we will then sort of do the COBE drop and transfer all the data into the CAFM system. This one here, we're already configuring the CAFM system for the COBE in the format it will be received. So some of these stages are actually running in parallel rather than series. The data linked to the FM strategy, the point there is about us attaching service, because this is a BSF, it's a PFI project in principle, it has a lot of SLAs, service level agreements and response times and things, which are linked to performance. So once we've transferred these assets over into our CAFM system, we will be reattaching all of our current SLAs to the assets, plus we will be able to automatically attach PPM plans. We tend to follow SFG 20, which is a maintenance standard, and by recognising the nature of assets, we can automatically assign maintenance frequencies and tasks through SFG 20 to those assets. That's quite a powerful thing to be able to do at the flick of a switch. Of course, there's a human intervention once we're in the CAFM system that we can adjust things to take account of resources and what suits the client operator. We coordinate those things. But in principle, we can transfer all of our year-by-year maintenance duties at the flick of a switch into our CAFM system and apply resources to them for a year. We'll also be implementing FSI Go, which is an FSI product such that our technicians who will have handheld devices can receive a job request. If you imagine a scenario, where the heating appears to have stopped working somewhere, our help desk receives that call. The clock starts ticking for us immediately. In the past, we would have sent job cards with instructions. The technician would have had to go into a fax machine, pick up the job card, find the boiler not working, spend some time having a look at the boiler, giving it a tap, whatever it does, disappear off to maybe check the flow rate, disappear off down to see the O&M manuals, take volume, there's about 14 volumes of them, find the commissioning data, see if it lines up with the flow rate, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, maybe it's the pump, whatever, come back, phone the supplier, it all takes forever. Clock's ticking away, and the next thing you know, we've failed an SLA. The system we'll be implementing, the instruction will be received on the glass, as we call it, through a handheld device. The instruction will have an asset code on it, and this is where the synchronization between the CAFM system, the help desk, and the asset management part of it, and the live BIM model works, because by double clicking or tapping the asset details, we will go into the BIM model on the glass using Navisworks, which is a viewer, and we'll then be able to locate the boiler, go to the boiler, and looking at the boiler visually, again by tapping on the screen, we'll be able to get key metrics for that boiler, including commissioning data. So without disappearing down to the basement for the next 3 or 4 hours trying to look up what the flow rate should be, right there and then we'll have all the details for how that boiler should be performing, no wasted time. From that we can take a photo, we can contact the supplier, we can have a spare part sent out in no time at all. We don't need to go disappearing, going to offices, finding phones, all this nonsense. So that's the vision about linking the data to our FM strategy. And then the BIM in use is really into the future, and that's about lifecycle planning, it's about change management, and being able to just do things really a lot more efficiently. Part of our process, and with any luck I'll be invited back in a year, but part of our process is measuring our performance in terms of cost and service now, and we'll be measuring it again after October, when we believe everything will have settled down and we'll have done some demonstrations. And the evidence of BIM and the application of BIM in FM will be if we can respond and rectify things quicker than we had been before. Thank you very much.